CNET Podcast. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Click on that bell for notifications. All right, want to talk about some of the upcoming shows that we have. David Baker, a good friend of mine, New York comedian. This is actually going to be the second live stream we've done with him. That's going to be on the 14th of July at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. And then Richie from Wisdom and Chains is going to be on the 21st of July at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. He's going to be also returning to the show. My next guest today, I actually discovered their podcast because I'd had some guests on my podcast before and saw that they had interviewed them and really enjoying their podcast. They've got a really interesting kind of flow to it. It's been listening to some of the ones where they talk about different albums and doing, controversial album covers and things of that nature. And they also run Noise and Toys. It's a record store up in northeastern Michigan. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got Ryan and Jeremy from the Noise Avocation Podcast. What's going on, guys?
What's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, dude?
Chilling. Now, here's a question I actually got from somebody in a Facebook group. They said, "Why did you rip off the Negative Approach logo?"
I've been waiting for somebody to ask that. They're a Detroit band. We love them, and our store name is Noise and Toys. So I wanted Noise in the podcast name because I wanted to tie it into it. And then avocation is like something that you take up into as sort of a hobby, but it becomes like your life, like an advocate, basically. And it uncoincidentally just made like an NA, and then I cropped it as like a quick logo, and I didn't even know we were going to use it. So I just started, we went with it. We made banners, we made like little podcast cards with the name on it, and we're working on making shirts, but I actually reached out to ask John Brannon for permission to use it before I start making a whole bunch of them. Because I didn't know, I don't think he'll care, but out of respect for him, I wanted to ask.
And if you're going to steal a band logo, why not Negative Approach?
Right, exactly. I mean, like, that's kind of the, like, ethos of punk and hardcore, we're always borrowing and stealing and repurposing, and it's like, yeah, why not just, do something in homage, like, who cares? I mean, I don't really have a lot of room to talk because, I famously ripped off a logo here, but it's just punk rock. That's just hardcore, like that's what we do, But that's actually cool that you guys went to him and asked him permission to use that, because it's kind of a rarity. I didn't ask Greg Ginn or anything like that.
Well,
so don't sue me.
I haven't heard back from him on the shirt.
Yeah, so if you're listening, John, hit us up, dude.
I'm sure Greg listens to this all the time. But so you guys started the podcast. Which came first? Was it was the record store, and then you started the podcast? And was that something that started in COVID, or was that predating that?
No, the record store actually started 6 years ago this week. My friend actually Jeremy knew him before I did, and then I came in here pretty much daily. I was sorting through records, through 45s, organizing things, bringing in people to buy stuff. And then he approached me with the business idea, and then I started taking things from there, and we became partners in the store. And then we decided we had this like makeshift recording studio in the back, and that became our podcast studio.
I was watching some internet things. I've been record collecting because aside from hardcore, we're like super record nerds, It doesn't matter what the genre is. And nobody talks about like our kind of music or new music. It's always the classic rock or the 80s stuff. A lot of the repeat. I didn't see a lot of bands or artists getting new exposure. And then we were always in here talking shit anyway. So we're like, why not record it? We both are fathers. We don't have a lot of time. Can't do a band. This is perfect.
Yeah.
To give back.
It's almost like doing
fun.
a band without doing a band, no?
It can't play
kinda.
Anyways.
Yeah, Yeah, it's definitely give and take, I guess.
Personalities.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a lot of fun, man.
Yeah, it is fun. Let's talk about like kind of how you guys got into like your first exposure to music. Like, did you guys have like family members that played music? Were you, did you have brothers and sisters? Did you play in like a high school band? Did you have like a proto punk or hardcore band? Like, how did your whole exposure to the world of music come about?
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay. So music would be like played. My mom would play when she was giving me a bath or whatever. I was a real little kid, so that'd be my first exposure, which would be like The Cure, 80s stuff, new wave, Flock of Seagulls. So I got like a secret love for all that. It's not a secret, but that new wave, dark wave, cold wave stuff. And then, well, it would have been like hip hop would have been my all over TV, MTV, and Tupac, Biggie, Nas, all that early '90s stuff really influenced me, and just loving music. And I didn't really get into hardcore and punk until my teenage years, and just from things that happened in my life that were not cool. Hardcore was there, punk rock was there to let out that aggression. And I just had a friend who had a band, and he was like, "Oh, come check out my band, man." And I was just like, I was hooked, done, sold, lifer. And
What about you, Ryan?
they were like a Strife style band, so that was like a crossover sound, and that's kind of what I like to this day.
Oh yeah. What you got, Ryan?
Me, I don't really know what my first exposure to music was. Like, I remember my mom used to tell me that I would fall asleep to the Married with Children theme song. So Frank Sinatra, maybe. But
Al Bundy.
yeah, like she put it on a videotape and looped it so I would sleep as a baby. But I don't know if that had a direct influence on anything. I had an uncle that lived with me when I was younger, and he was sort of like an older brother to me, and he was into a bunch of different stuff, like Tool and Deftones and things like that. So I picked up on a lot of that. He had friends that were into a lot of like underground Southern Texas hip hop stuff, like UGK, Devin the Dude, Zero, like all that stuff. So I got into hip hop that way, and then probably metal the same way, like just finding their CDs, and I would put them into my computer and rip them onto there and burn them onto my own CDs. And then I would have my mom take me to the music store every week to try to buy new stuff when you could like scan the little CDs on headphone racks and stuff like that. And I just became an obsession, really. Like I just kept trying to find new stuff all the time and sort of recreate that feeling where you're like, you first hear a band that you really, really love. And that's what me and Jeremy look for all the time, is like finding that in new bands or bands that you didn't see or hear when they came out.
Like chasing that buzz.
Go ahead.
Like chasing that buzz, that high of finding, like, oh my God, this band is amazing. Doesn't happen as much as you get older.
No. Well, and
So when it
especially with
happens, it's like,
exposure to
woo!
like, especially with exposure to technology, and this is something, we've covered pretty extensively on this podcast, where it's like, physical media, people still like it, but it isn't obviously as prominent as it used to be. And I guess that kind of begs the question with like, your record store. And we also had Jay Reason on the show, and Jay, started a record store up in Connecticut during COVID, which I was like, that's insane. But it worked out for him, and clearly, you guys are doing a great thing. What do you, I guess, what do you feel like the future of physical media is? Do you think it's still going to be around, or do you think we're going to go like completely digital? Do you think people are going to want to have a tangible record in their hands in 10 or 20 years?
Yeah, because I mean, like, you had the same talk like 40 years ago. They were going to say it was going to go all digital anyways, and it still hasn't. I mean, there's always going to be that niche to it. Like, yeah, there's going to be probably a majority that want to have the convenience and whatever, but then there's the people that like to hold physical stuff. And I think more and more of those people are coming about now than ever before, really. So I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon. And even if it does kind of slow down a little bit, it's still, there's enough people that are that invested into it that they're going to keep buying, then keep finding it, collecting, hunting down different stuff, because I mean, it's addicting. So
No doubt, no doubt. And you know, how do you guys kind of like, what's your what am I trying to say here? Like, what do you kind of do to kind of, you know, promote and, you know, are you're brick and mortar, but do you guys do like, you know, online advertising? Do you flyer? Do you go to hardcore shows? Do you do anything like that in order to promote the business?
the business, I mean, online kind of promotes itself. Like you have a Facebook page, people find it. You might get noticed on there, you might not, but I wouldn't say we so much promote the business at shows. Like we have done a couple record shows here and there. But as far as like going to a concert, I don't think we've like promoted one at a concert, but we've done it with the podcast.
Yeah, at Blackout Christmas, I put a pile of cards on the Earth Mover table, and they were gone. So that's cool.
But we're in like a small city, so like 30,000 people, like countywide, and that might even be a little too high. But we're a huge tourist destination. So right now, I mean, there's a huge influx of people here. Like throughout the past week, I mean, we've had a few hundred sales just in the last 5 days, and one of those days we were closed. So
that's impressive. That's great.
See a lot of different people.
Yeah, I mean, once you can kind of become like on the map and whatnot, like that, you know, word of mouth and, you know, people just, you know, wanting to collect records and stuff, you guys got some business. So I think that's great. And you know, that kind of leads, you know, to the podcast and, you know, hardcore. Like, what was your first exposure to hardcore? You know, be it a show, be it a record, like, how did you get involved? Did you have, you know, friends that kind of exposed you to it? Jeremy?
Well, like I said, I had a friend who was in a band, had him in a class at school, and I'm trying to go back in my head, so give me a sec. And he just wanted me to go check out his band, and like I said, I had a lot of things going on at home, and it was just like a perfect release for me. You know, I saw people spin kicking, floor punching, knocking each other, and just loving it. You know, it wasn't like the violence I was used to. You know what I mean? So people helping each other, and then I eventually played bass in that band for a couple of shows. But I wouldn't want anybody to hear it. So if you were there, lucky you. You know, it's just not good. And then we started going to Detroit from Alpena because we had a good scene here at one time. And then as time went on, you know, people move away and town got smaller. So we just started running back and forth from here to Detroit as much as we could. And then I became a parent, a father, and then the shows became few and far between. You know, you have to go to like a real special one. And then over the last few years, it's kind of like we can do this. Our kids are getting older, and have more fun with it. You know.
I don't. What you got, Ryan?
Before I start that, not to mess up the video, but is there an echo going on when I talk?
There is definitely an echo, and I was going to try to tell you guys, but it's it wasn't.
Can you hit your mute button while I talk? Give me 1 second. I'm gonna.
Yeah, sure.
You stay there. I'm going.
While
to
you
the
guys
front
are adjusting, I'll throw up
I'm
a few
going
samples
to the record store.
of the shirts. We got our bullet mock. Like I said, we got the black flag that I didn't ask Greg in permission for. We got the Psycho 2 mock. We got the Scream Tatum glow in the dark, and then we got the Randy Scream glow in the dark. All shirts are 20% off with the code 20, as you can see down there in the bar. Just go to hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use that code 20, 20% off everything. You'll love it. All right, are we
All right.
better situated?
Yeah, I just went to the front of the store. Is that better?
Oh, okay.
We good?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, because I think Jeremy's headphones were picking me up.
Yeah, there was something.
But anyways,
It's always my fault.
What was your question when you were
Well,
before
basically,
we got interrupted?
what's your first hardcore exposure? Like, did you, what's the first thing you heard that really kind of, gripped you? And like, did you go to any shows after that? And, what was your first show and what was your impression of that?
So the first thing hardcore that I can like, if you're specifically asking hardcore, that I can remember hearing was probably like Hatebreed. Because I'm about to be 33 at the end of the year, so I'm a little younger. And hardcore is more Jeremy's forte. However, I do like a lot of it. But yeah, I think Hatebreed was probably like the first thing that I really remember hearing that dove me into discovering like Throwdown, and then I went into like the more like punky side of things, like with Gorilla Biscuits, and then I found the whole Detroit scene. But I didn't get to go to many shows when I was younger because we live 3-4 hours north of Detroit. So getting down there, like my mom was taking care of me and my daughter, so like she wasn't able to just run me to Detroit to go to a concert. And I don't know, I didn't get to go to that many. I had a kid when I was 18, so I was busy being a dad. The first concert I really went to was 2007 or 8 Ozfest, and I seen Hatebreed there, and that kind of got me into all that stuff. But I started off more in metal and hip hop, and then got into hardcore and punk.
Right on. Now, we were kind of talking about, we had mentioned in the show, one of your guys' previous shows about, controversial album covers and whatnot. And I got halfway through the episode, and I don't know if you guys covered Most Precious Blood, Our Lady of Annihilation.
We didn't, but I'll talk about it. I love that cover.
Go ahead.
I don't know.
I don't think a lot
Mother
of people
Mary
know
with a
about
bomb strap to her.
What's that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That one was kind of like, it was, I remember they had to put a sticker on it, and then, they had to, I don't even think they were distributing it some of the stores or whatnot. And, it was kind of, it was weird, how do you guys feel about that? Like putting, parental advisories in album covers, or like, the artists have to compromise their vision in order to get that. How do you guys feel about that? Do you think it's okay, or do you think it's like something that they shouldn't compromise on?
Well, the store that I used to get hardcore CDs from was locally owned by a guy named, we called him Porno Wayne. He owned a CD store and band store, tattoo shop in the back, and then a dirty smut store right next door that hid all the vinyl. So, like, all underneath it, it's like a real big secret. But he was the one who would get all these CDs from. Like, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't get like all the Victory bands and the Trustkill, the Thorpe back then. So I didn't know that was censored, to be honest. When I got my copy of Most Precious Blood, are like all of them actually, Nothing in Vain all the way through. They were just through like private distros, so they weren't really going to these big business stores. So as far as the controversy, I know my mom and grandma wouldn't like it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it being religious people, but other than that,
I think it was more of kind of a statement on their part. I don't think they were necessary. I mean, they didn't really have any love for religion, but it seemed as though they were just kind of doing it to be controversial.
I've had the chance to see both those guys twice. Once on the Nothing in Vain, and then after on the Our Lady Annihilation. And I noticed that their amp said "Think, Don't Pray," and I always thought that was like real clever. You know what I'm saying? Whether you believe in God or whatever, it's like it made me think. Just reading that statement, like, I could think of a lot of people that, if they take a step in that thinking direction, added to the prayer, they'd probably be out of their current situation. You know what I'm saying? At least that's how I
Way
took
of
it.
looking at it. Yeah, definitely. Um, what do you guys feel like, controversial artists are now that maybe not be as in the forefront or in the mainstream, like, guys that are coming up that are like, oh, this could be something that's like incendiary in the future.
I think
I don't
we
think they
did
should worry about it.
yeah. I mean, like at this point, that stuff's been done so many times. Like I think back when Cannibal Corpse came out, like those album covers were insane. But now you've
Yeah.
seen so many bands do it that like when another guy does it, it's just you look at it and you're like, oh, it's death metal.
It's just par
So
for the course at this point.
yeah, and I don't think there's as much censorship as there was, but I think somebody's always trying to push those boundaries. So there's probably somebody out there doing it. I wouldn't know him by name. We did interview an artist named Brad Moore like a while back, and he's done covers for bands like Gate Creeper and Tomb Mold and Slime Lord, and he does this crazy, crazy looking artwork. I wouldn't call his stuff really controversial though. It's one of those things where like you have to look at it like over and over and over again, and you're like, wow, this is insane. Like there's so much in this picture. But I don't see as much censorship anymore, really. Like in my store, I've had cattle decapitation sitting right next to Dolly Parton, and I've seen old ladies look at it like it was nothing.
Did they ever say anything about that?
I've had some pick up a cover and be like, "Oh, this is interesting." Like it was the
Clutching their pearls, huh?
yeah, it was the Hugh Manure cover. Like when there's a cow and there's a bunch of like human like excrement coming out of it,
Yeah.
and she just looks at it like and gives you like and then looks at me and then like sets it down and she's like interesting and then just walks off. But for the most part, I mean, kids come in and look at it and they're like, oh cool, and I'm like, you probably shouldn't have that, but all right.
You guys have any like interesting regular people that show up to the store that are kind of
Oh
like,
yeah.
I don't know, like offbeat or like who do you got?
Oh yeah.
Don't have to name names
Well,
or anything, but
It's like the
I'm one of
Simpsons
those
around here,
people.
man.
I was an interesting customer, and now I'm still an interesting customer, but I also do the podcast. But there's more interesting people than me, like Ron.
Yeah, we have a guy named Ramblin' Ron. And he's an awesome guy. We love him, but he just talks and talks and talks and talks and like. But yeah, it's literally like this place is like it's The Simpsons. Like there's a disco stew. There's an auto. We have a guy that dresses up like a pirate. He sits out front of the coffee shop
Yeah.
every day, and he'll come in and like if you give him an arg, like he'll give you one back, and like there's a lot of interesting people that come through here.
thieves? Do you guys ever get thieves?
Um, Actually, I've only had two, but and never one that we noticed. Like it was like, oh, we opened up a CD and the CD was missing or something. Like, and I guess if you really wanted to, it was Steve Miller Band. So I was like, if you really want to steal a Steve Miller CD that bad, like take it.
Have at her.
It's not a big deal. But for the most part, like the way when I get a chance in a minute here, when it's a good time, I'll run the camera through the store and show you the layout.
Yeah.
But it's pretty hard to actually get out of here without one of us noticing.
Yeah,
What's the
bottleneck's
biggest?
pretty good.
What's that?
It bottlenecks pretty good to where if you're stealing something, you're in on records, big stuff, you're getting caught, dude.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll get you.
That's
Yeah.
good. What's the biggest challenge to running a record store, do you think? Aside from the money aspect, I guess.
Mostly obtaining good inventory, like trying to find a really good collection, especially up here because we did have record stores like back in the 80s and there was some prior to that. We did have like a Camelot and an FYE at one point, but that was more like tapes and CDs. There wasn't really as many records there. There was a handful, but for the most part it was CDs. So finding it like there's never a time where like a huge like Revelation Records record collection comes in. it might happen like once every other year or something, and it's small, and it was brand new stuff that I already sold them that they're bringing back or something like that. But a lot of times when we get record collections up here, it's Glenn Miller and Burt Camford and Engelbert Humperdinck and like old country discount records that people would just throw out. And I mean, we sell them. Like some people buy them. Like, yeah, we don't sell them for much. They're like $1 to $3, depending. But people buy it. But I would say obtaining inventory is the hardest part, especially like up here. Because if you go to like Grand Rapids or Detroit, like there's tons of people that have been collecting from shows and stuff down there. They bring it in, they need money, they send it off to a store. But up here, there just wasn't as much of that up here.
I think you'll never, like, would you say it's like incredibly hard and rare to find hip hop in collections up here? Because the people around here just didn't, are way up in northeastern Michigan. It's the retirement community. In the last 5 years, it just started getting cool. You know what I mean? Like where more people are coming in. So it's like Oak Ridge Boys comes in, and there's 3,000 copies of Oak Ridge Boys, and like Fleetwood Mac and Peter Frampton. All that 70s kind of stuff is what I always see coming in. But with the argument for downstate, I could say that I feel that stuff gets ate up a lot quicker because there's like more competition. So I guess it has its give and take.
Well, another thing I've noticed about downstate is the stuff that we have a lot of, like Barry Manilow, Rod Stewart, Neil Diamond, things like that. They have a hard time getting it. So it's like the roles are reversed, kind of. Because a lot of those records were discount records and they got sent up here. Like we're like a low income discount city. So like they send like
that's a good way to put it.
It is like, I'm not trying to trash us, but that's what it is. Like you go to Dunham's, like it's the shit that like downstate discounted and couldn't sell, and then they bring it here. And it was the same with music. Like we got a lot of the crappy cutout stuff. But I've never seen hip hop.
Have you guys ever like hosted shows or anything there?
There was in the alleyway next door. So we're downtown. There's an alley with another big building across that hosts multiple businesses. There was a restaurant in there that was hosting shows in the alleyway, but it was costing more money than what it was worth, really. There's been a few small venues. There's been like, Jeremy will get into that in a minute because he's got some stories that I wasn't there for, but there's been shows put on here, but there's never been a like venue that's lasted.
Right. It's just I think we're in that part of Michigan. There's no reason to come here. I mean, unless you know it's here and you're visiting, coming on vacation. You got to go out of your way. You know what I mean? But my wife's a little older than me. It's not technically my wife, but
just so
she's into the scene.
That's scratchy. Crazy.
So, this.
Yeah,
sorry. So, she was actually did guest vocals on the first hardcore album demo to come out of Alpena by a band named Ingrain, which had Nate Stickney, shout out to Nate, and Nick Donakowski, Josh Woods, whatever you want to call him, and our buddy Bill Reinholz. And that was in 97. So that's when that scene around here started, and that was before I was around. And we had like Walls of Jericho played here, like when they were real early. Like I don't even know if they had anything out yet. One of my early shows later on would have been like in the 2000s, like Dead to Fall, right before they were on Victory. They played here in a little hall in a town 20 minutes outside of Alpena. There's a Sanborn Township Hall. That's where like Walls of Jericho played. That's where I saw my first show. It was like Hyde. That was a band from Detroit. They came up.
Hyde, I remember that band.
Yeah, with Joe Hyde and Dead to Fall. They were from Chicago. Dogs of War came up a couple of times. Tyrant. But yeah, like a friend of mine, shout out to Jason. He would put on these shows because he's a hardcore fan, hardcore kid. and he was a straight edge kid, and all the rest of us were like degenerates. So he had his shit together and could put the shows on, you know. And and like I said, when people get older and move away, and on a trends change, I guess, you know. So I always thought of like you put people in a strainer and you shake that strainer and that hardcore strainer and you see who's left, you know, after 20 years. There's like, you know, 3, 4 of us still fucking
Yeah.
screaming, you know. But I
Kind of
wouldn't change that
disheartening,
shit
isn't
for
it?
anything.
No, but kind of disheartening at the same time in that, we were kind of talking about earlier about, you know, like aggression and being able to release, uh, have like some sort of catharsis as a result of music. Uh, there was a meme that was circulating where it said, hippies are just mean people cosplaying as nice people, and metalheads are just nice people cosplaying as
Yeah,
mean people.
yeah, I've seen that.
Pretty checks out, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure actually you is where I seen it. Like you shared it, so I was
Oh,
like, oh, I was like, that's great.
probably
Like
did.
that's
There's a
totally,
lot of truth to that, man. At least from my experience around these parts growing up, there's a lot of truth to it.
There's some
Um,
angry hippies out there, aren't there?
yeah.
yeah,
You would think if they're like getting stoned all the time, they'd be a little less angry, but I don't know.
It's when that buzz comes down
yeah,
and the
Yeah,
they're just
mask comes off
it's because their clothes suck. That's why they're so pissed off.
and the music. Well,
Yeah,
that's the thing too. It's like, you know, we listen to this music because we love it and we like to get out that aggression. Shitty music just makes you angry.
yeah. I
right. It's
can't
like the
stand
complete
Grateful Dead.
reverse effect. Yeah, fuck the Grateful Dead and Jerry Garcia. I don't care. I'll say it. The first time,
You're not
okay,
big
check
into the
this out.
champ.
No, but this record store, this pertains to this record store. So Steve, the other owner, he had a thrift store, and when I first started gathering up all this shit and I wanted to start build up this collection, I had this promo 45 Grateful Dead. I'm like, it's over like $20, and for a 45, that's pretty good, you know, 12, 14 years ago. And I was like, you can have it, dude. I don't even want it, Mike. You know, I was like, get it out of here. I just gave it to him. I didn't want nothing for it. I was like, it's garbage. Don't want it in my collection. So no, we're not. I'm not a jam band guy. Fish, I don't really care for either, man.
Yeah,
Can't
Fish,
do it.
Polyphonic Spree. It's kind of like, well, I mentioned this on another show that Trey Anastasio and his musicians, they got some chops, but it's all like, for what, like it,
Right, right.
when
That's
you can't
probably the
really
only
put
time I'll
together
talk
like a
shit about music too, is like that shit. Everything else I can find something good in, I guess, you know?
yeah, yeah, it's a hard listen because it's like they're not really trying to make something that's like palatable to the ear. They're rather just uh they're showing off. And I think you guys had mentioned like Yingwei on there. Never could get into any of that stuff. Never could get into the Jaco Pastorius, Yingwei, Steve Vai. Just doesn't do anything. And it's like, do you ever get people in the store that are really into that like niche, like technical guitar playing stuff?
Um, Not as much as
I
I
think
would
Don
like.
is.
Yeah, but he's like one of many of none. Like I wish more people were into that, honestly. Because
You're into it.
yeah, I am. I like Weather Report, like with Jaco Pastorius, and like Return to Forever that had like Al Di Meola and Stanley Clark and that stuff. And like that jazz fusion thing, like I like it. I don't like all of it, but I do. But you would think with all the people here that like are all about guitar music, but they're all about like Metallica guitar music or AC/DC guitar music, where it's like, yeah, they got cool riffs
AC/DC.
and shit, but there's no technicality to it whatsoever. So if like you're that much of a fan of guitar music, like you can get this $6 Al Di Meola record instead of hunting this $60 Metallica record. Like, and to me, I don't get that. Like, but they don't give it a chance. So I honestly wish more people were into the niche stuff like that. I mean, there is quite a few, but I would say the majority isn't.
What's the biggest? I mean, you mentioned like, you had like Glenn Campbell and Engelbert Humperdinck and like Dolly Parton. What's as far as genre is concerned, what do you think is the most purchased at your store? What are most people into, do you think?
I sell a lot of metal, but we sell a lot of classic rock type of stuff, like Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd. I call it like generational, like those guys are the Beatles, shit like that. Like it's gonna be around
Legacy bands.
forever. Legacy bands, like yeah. Those are probably the biggest sellers. But I will say, like you'll have people that'll bring you up Slayer and Glenn Campbell in the same pile, like a lot of times, really, like more than you would think, and it surprises the shit out of me. Marty Robbins is another one. He made a gunfighter ballad soundtrack. It's like old timely type of westerny sound and stuff. We used to give them away, and now we can't even find more to have because people buy them so much.
Yeah, dude, that's like one of those top 100 must-have records too. Like everybody says, you gotta have it.
I can't stand it. It's Marty Robbins, the Gunfighter Ballads.
Okay.
If you see once you see the cover, he's like, it's like real cheesy, like,
If I
Is that part of the allure? Is the cover? Is that what hooks people?
I think the cover's awesome, but the record is not cool. And when
can't stand the record. I think it sucks. But I would show one, but I'm sold out. Like I said, like I cannot keep them in. Like they just suck. Like I don't get it. It's from a video game though. I know why. I asked some kids like that were buying them. I was like, why do you how did you find this? And they're like, oh, it's from Fallout. I'm like, oh, okay, I see. Like I get it now. But then it drove the price. Yeah, it drove the price from like $1 to like $20 to $30 within like 6 months.
Damn. That's like
TikTok, man.
On Stranger Things, they had
Kate Bush.
Kate Bush, yeah, Kate Bush
running up the hill.
Yeah, and like none of these
Jeremy's
young
got
kids
a story
knew who fucking Kate Bush was, and then Kate Bush's Spotify plays went through the fucking roof.
Through the roof.
It's like crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah, so I was into Kate Bush before that, and so I had a Hounds of Love record, and it was great. So it was like a promo pressing, which is kind of weird for an 1985 anyway. And then I had a couple other, like her first one, The Kick Inside, and the one after that, The Sensual World. And that, whatever. And then that song hits, and I sold my copy of Hounds of Love for $185.
Ooh.
Which would have never, and then like 2 weeks later, 3 weeks, it starts to come back down, and everybody wanted the cassette tape.
They repressed it too.
Yeah, then they repopped it, and Ryan got me another copy, so I never even really lost it. You know what I mean? Like, it was thank you, Kate Bush. So it's crazy though how that kind of influence, video games, TV, TikTok. Like my kid learned about Nirvana through, aside from me, but through like the newer Batman movie with the Something in the Way song, just boom. And then like
really?
kids don't even know Smells Like Teen Spirit. They know Something in the Way. It's strange because we come from an era where like I could never hear Teen Spirit again, and I'll be like, I'm all right with it. I'll never forget it's up here,
Yep.
So yeah. It's interesting to see.
Did you guys ever see that movie they did where it was like a fucking Peter Pan movie, and they sang Smells Like Teen Spirit in it? The kids all did, the Lost Boys or whatever.
I missed that one.
It was Hugh Jackman was in it. It was cringy as fuck, and that just reinforces like I could never hear that song again, and I'd be okay. It was bad.
Yeah.
What's the rarest?
That's a future episode.
The rarest record we have.
Individually that you own.
Oh, okay. I was going to say in the store. I was like, I'll open the vault right here. So, the rarest record that I own. So I was trying to rattle my Discogs list off in my head.
I'm trying to think. I don't know what would be rare.
So One really rare thing that I have is a band called Scorpion. It's not Scorpions like the rock band.
German band,
Um,
yeah.
they was like no, yeah, not the German band. These guys were based out of Detroit. It was the Funk Brothers who played on a lot of Motown stuff before, like they played on a lot of that Motown stuff. I wish I had it with me because I would have. I would. It's got a really cool cover. Like it's like four drips coming down, and then each like member's faces in the drips. It's really cool, but it's hard to find because it was only pressed one time ever, and there was like limited amount of copies of it. And I actually came across one here, believe it or not. Like once in a while that happens. Something really crazy rare comes in. Um, I would say that's probably really up there because it's only been done that once and probably will never be done again. Like that's one of those like one off, like, oh cool, it got done outside of music nerds who really cares. So but it's like this
How
awesome
many did they press?
funk jazz. They didn't give a quantity, but back
Oh,
in the late 60s it would have been pretty
Yeah.
low because it was a low budget label that only had like a couple releases. And but it was like jazz funk rock, like mixed with soul, like almost fusion before fusion really. But
you know.
I
What
can't,
about you,
I
Jeremy?
also
What you
have
got?
a Liquid
Oh,
Swords box set that's pretty rare, but
oh shit!
it's got like a
Wow.
all the
Oh,
chess
off of
pieces
eBay
and
you got.
everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That shit's sick.
What do you got, Jeremy?
Hmm.
Rarest record.
I don't know about rarest, but I have the Jackson Five's first single before Motown. It was on a label called um Steel Town. That's pretty cool. I have an
Is that a
Evergreen
40,
Terrace.
45?
Yeah, it's a 45. It's got
Okay.
a little punch hole in it, but it sounds odd. It's cool to listen to, because it's like pre Motown, so it doesn't have all the bells and whistles. You can just hear like the rawness of these kids. Trying to think of LPs though that like older rare LPs. I don't know. Like I have an Evergreen Terrace album. Very Alive by Time. I think they only pressed like 100 of them, and I got that like
Oh,
way earlier in my collection, and in my collecting rather, because that was just like one of those like albums for personal reasons, like love forever, right? So I think they made like 100 of those, but
that's
I don't,
weird because I remember that record, and you'd think it would be more common.
right, right. But when they pressed that, I guess that that was it. And I did, I noticed that throughout the years too. Is like that guy was telling you about Porno Wayne. We would have him order us. We'd have to really fucking bug him like 3, 4, 5 times. But like he got me Mike Vallely and the Rats 7-inch from Indecision Records, like things like that we were really into. And I always liked that the punk rock, the hardcore scene always had like the colorful, crazy colors, man. Like even when no records were nothing, nobody wanted them. They were still pressing like cool shit. Um, but as far, yeah, I don't know. I'll probably go home and be like, oh shit, I should have said this one, that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I
hard
already
to.
thought of like I
You
thought of
know,
like three more as
Yeah.
you were talking because I was like,
got a
oh yeah,
Phil
this one,
Spector
that one.
box set that's fucking awesome. That's pretty rare that
Oh
people
shit.
seem to want. It has all the
Nice.
girl groups all in mono. That's
Oh
fun to
yeah,
listen
that's right.
to.
He didn't record in stereo.
No,
Saw
and it has
that.
a little button.
Yeah, I saw that. Did you guys see that movie about Phil Spector with Al Pacino and Helen Mirren?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's like I watched it a couple times, man. It's good. He did such a
Fucking
good
weird.
job.
He's a
Pacino.
weirdo though. He definitely encapsulated that eccentricity of Phil Spector.
Oh yeah. And then all the documentary stories about him like shooting up like lighting off guns in the studio, and like major artists being like, dude, this guy is fucking crazy, like
Oh yeah.
sneak out the back, man. And this is like John
Yeah.
Lennon and all these dudes crazy.
William Friedkin, the director, was a lot like that too. He would try to like, I don't know if Phil Spector tried to intimidate his recording artist, but like William Friedkin would go and like fire a gun on the set to fucking scare everybody. He would, yell at them. He would do other stuff. I had a buddy whose aunt was a PA for him, and he threw a pot of hot coffee at her. So that just seems
Oh,
to come with the territory. Like, these creative, brilliant artists are just tortured, angry souls or something.
or like to torture other people's souls. Hot coffee's crossing the line, man. It's brutal.
Sadists, yeah. It didn't hit her,
Yeah, dude.
fortunately. Now, if you guys had a dream record you could own, what would it be?
So I actually know one like immediately off the top of my head.
So do I.
Organized Confusion was a hip hop group in the late 80s, early 90s out of New York. I don't know if you're familiar with Pharaoh Monch by chance, but
Yeah.
it
Simon
was his
Says,
group. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It was his group before he went on solo. I have their first record, but their second record is really, really hard to find. It normally goes for, on the low end, like 250, 350, something like that. It's really hard to find, and I don't know why it hasn't been repressed at this point yet. But yeah, if I had to choose, it'd be that.
What you got, Jeremy?
An original Lower East Side 7-inch Warzone and an original Don't Forget the Struggle copy on isn't that put on Caroline? Like, yeah, that'd be pretty cool.
Nice.
I'm gonna pause while you're doing. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Okay.
I'll be right back. 1 second.
Because you got me in a hardcore thinking, but there's a lot of other albums that I can think of that I definitely would want. Let me think. Like some early Cramps stuff. I've been on a Cramps kick lately. So I have a couple of Cramps albums, older ones that are cool.
Nice, man. Mine would probably be, and I don't even know if it's a good record. I don't think anybody knows.
Right.
Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. That's the dream
Oh,
record.
hell yeah, dude. That's cool. Yeah,
But
man.
whatever happened to that record? Didn't that Martin Scraley buy it, the pharma guy? And then
Yeah.
Wu-Tang was saying they were saying something like, if we'd have known we were selling to that guy, we would have never sold.
We would have never done it, yeah. Actually, they wrote a whole book about it, dude.
Oh, really?
About the sale and about, yeah, I read it. I have it. It's
what's
about
it called?
Shit, it's at the house.
Okay.
I think it's just called Wu-Tang and the secret record or the secret something. I'll tell you what, I'll after this I'll shoot you the name, picture, and all that. Because it's interesting,
awesome.
dude.
Yeah.
If you're nerding out on stuff like that, definitely.
Oh, I mean, it's so fascinating, like the story of it. They were like, we're going to record one album and we're going to sell it to, well, they didn't even want to sell it initially, did they?
No, they weren't going to release it until whatever date. And
like 100 years from now or something.
Yeah, like release it to the world or whatever. And then that dude, it's real shady, man. It's weird. And a lot of people didn't get paid that were supposed to get paid. You know, like other Wu-Tang members were. I mean, there's a lot of BS going on in that book. Details it.
Didn't he have to actually give it back to somebody? Didn't like one of the auction houses like pick it up after he got thrown in jail or something?
Yeah,
I think. Yeah,
I think didn't it go back to RZA or something?
I thought it did, but then didn't he have to get it? Go ahead.
I thought there was supposed to be like a worldwide reveal of it soon. Like I read, maybe it was a spoof, I don't know, but I read something about them being like, we're going to show this to the world finally, like this year, I thought.
No, that was part of the allure. That was part of the whole mystery, was that, nobody's going to see it until a century later,
But what if they play it and it's just like a drunk babbling of ODB that they kept banked for like 30 years or something?
Oh, dude, tears will come from my eyes, dude, if that is what is on there, dude. Yeah, it could be blank.
Oh, I never. On it.
Yeah. Or I mean, it could be
Consider
every
that
member.
Possibility,
I mean, they got like.
I didn't even think about it being blank.
Dude, they could
It's
have
like
all
all those.
farted into a microphone and just been like,
Yeah.
you paid $1 million for this.
You guys ever been to LA?
No.
No, I have not.
So there, like, once you get off the train station, there'll be these guys, and it's an obvious scam. I don't see how people don't pick up on it, but they'll go and they'll have these little jewel cases with these CDRs, and they'll go and they'll fucking tap it right in front of your face like that, and they'll force these tourists to buy these CDRs that are just bullshit. They're blank, and like you're never gonna see these people again. What are they gonna do, So I mean,
Oh, I did have that happen to me in Florida. So
oh,
I was a kid. I went to Florida. I think I was probably 11. My mom took me and my sister to Disneyland or Disney World, whichever ones. She took me there. We
World.
were in. I don't know which one's which, but anyways,
World's
they both
Florida.
got fucking Mickey Mouse there. That's all that matters. But I was walking into a mall with them, and this guy's out front selling CDs. And at this point, I was already full fledged into music and hip hop and everything. So I was like, oh, cool. This guy's got a demo. Mom, let's get his CD. And she's like, no, 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 no. And I'm making a scene. And she's like, well, no, it could be blank. You don't know, what's on there. And I'm like, no, fuck that. He wouldn't do that. He's trying to promote his music. It was blank.
It was blank.
How,
Damn.
did you ever think? But you said you were on vacation, so you obviously couldn't have confronted him again, could you?
Yeah, I never seen him again. Like you said, you never see him again.
Living in Hollywood, I would see all those motherfuckers all the time, and they'd be out there because they will harass the fuck out of you. They will go pretty hard on these people that really just want to go and see a wax museum or something, and I'll walk along there and be like, look, these guys are trying to rip you off. Don't fucking give them any money. And a lot of them got up in my face and got angry with me. And it's just run an honest business here and do fucking legit stuff. And you wouldn't be called out on your fucking scam,
Do you see anybody beating them down ever?
No, I'm sure it's happened, but no. People
That
that
shit would
stayed
totally get
multiple
on my
days in
nerves.
LA probably I'm gonna get my fucking money back from these assholes. But nah,
Yeah,
never
right?
crazy like that.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Wu-Tang would be one of those ones that would,
Probably
they've
not.
obviously
But you
got some
never know.
talent. I don't think they would do that as a troll,
Yeah, I don't. They're hilarious. They got a fucking. They all have a good sense of
I
humor.
know. That's
Some
why I'm
may
dude, RZA could do some silly shit like that. I could see him doing something like that, or just being like, yo, you just paid $120 million for a record. Peace. End of story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Who knows?
I think one of the conditions under it was that he could play it for friends,
Yeah,
Yep.
you
a
just
party
couldn't
or something.
publicly, could not publicly.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that's
think there
crazy.
was an
I've heard a lot of
exclusive
people wouldn't
listening
even liked
party.
it anyway because Mathematics was the producer, and I know a lot of people don't really like him as a producer. I don't know.
I mean, like him or not, as a producer, he made the fucking Wu-Tang logo, so you gotta like him either way. So get over it.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't mind
Who who
mathematics.
who are artists that you feel like are kind of on the decline, who've just not really put out anything that was really stellar in the last few years? Any genre.
Mm.
Metallica.
Shit, that happened a long time ago.
It's obvious, yeah.
I would say one. I really love Benny the Butcher, but his last couple albums are on a major label at this point. I'm not saying he's doing bad by any means. It's just it sounds less gritty to me than when I discovered him. And that's the stuff that I really liked about him was how it was gritty, how it was dirty. It was very 90s dirty street Mob Deep style Havoc sort of thing. And now it's a little more polished. I mean, but I get it because he's in a different place in life. He's got, $1 million contract. He's working out business deals. He's doing his thing. He's in a different place to where his mindset's going to be differently. So he's going to write differently. And I get that. That's how artists work. But I just haven't been quite as in love with his last couple records. Or really
What
just
do you
the
think?
one that came out recently, I guess, more because the one prior to that was still pretty good. But all that old stuff, man, I love it. I just wish it was a little more grimy still, but I still love the dude no matter what. So I don't mean any like disrespect about it.
Sure. What about you, Jeremy?
I honestly, I listen to like a lot of new stuff that I think is on the up. But I'll give an example of a band that is on the down in my opinion, in my eyes, but they're on the up in a different way, and Knocked Loose.
Knocked Loose.
I was gonna say
So,
Turnstile, but
but okay, that's another good example. But I really
okay.
liked Knocked Loose's first, like all the way up to Different Shade of Blue or whatever. And then it was like their whole sound changed. They blew up. They're selling out um, everywhere, quick in minutes. It's like, and I think their sound went into a more obviously kind of like Ryan was saying about Benny, is they're appealing to more people, um, cleaner, little cleaner sound. But they kind of just to me changed their. It's like two different bands. So you can look at that either way, I guess. But on the down, uh, Megadeth's last few albums I haven't really been that impressed with, and I was hopeful for, because I did really like that one, uh, Dystopia that came out. I don't know, maybe it's 10 years now, 8 years.
It's
Um,
2015.
yeah, so there you go. Time. See, so like a couple years ago, 10 years ago. Um, you know what I mean? It's crazy.
Yeah, I'd
Uh,
argue though that I didn't really like the album that much, but it was kind of a more of a return to form Death Magnetic Metallica. They were
oh, I,
definitely
I
kind
I
of
agree.
they were
I
definitely
don't
trying
mind
to
that
tap
album.
into their older stuff, and it was okay. It was all right.
Yep. I didn't mind that the Hardwired album. I actually liked.
Okay.
I
I
just
didn't
didn't
hear
like
that one.
the. Oh, you didn't listen to the Hardwired?
No,
That was
no, but
like
I mean Metallica really just lost me throughout the years,
right. It's just in the record store, man. You're gonna hear it. In fact, if you're interested in a copy of Death Magnetic, I have a copy for sale right now on Discogs. Everybody out there,
If anybody wants it, here it is.
yeah, let me know.
Uh, now, why don't we do a little tour of the store, Ryan? You can kind of show us what we got, what you're working with.
Okay, so it's actually kind of large, but one thing I want to show, I'm going to flip the camera here real quick. We do have
All right.
an actual vault. Like this used to be a jewelry store a long time ago.
Uh,
So
Your
this
way.
The
is,
building was built like before 1898. Like the town was incorporated in what 1893. So we know the building is at least that old or older.
Oh
It's
shit.
crazy.
you can see like, and it's pretty packed with stuff. Like there's another safe in the back there.
Trying to
Um,
shift the layout here so we can see it a little bit better. But
oh, I'm sorry. Here, let me,
no, you're good.
is that better?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Right on, right on.
That's inside of the safe, but it is a big ass vault door. I mean, it's heavy. It's all solid concrete around there. But let me turn some lights on really quick. So this
Oh,
is
cool.
the front of the store, and it pretty much everything just goes straight down, and everything's alphabetical. Like A starts over in that corner over there, runs all the
That
way
must have
down
been
here.
fun to organize.
Yeah, you can see our sweet podcast banner up there.
Cool.
And then there's another floor that goes up.
Wait, is that shirts I see over there?
There is a tester's shirt over here in the corner, but
Oh, okay.
just one.
Oh, so
It's the
that's
same.
okay.
It's the same shirt I'm wearing.
Nice.
And then there's like a
That's cool,
wall of
man.
some more rare stuff over here. Crates lined up all along here, and then like CDs and DVDs and soundtracks and stuff are all lined through here.
It'd be nice to see more people doing brick and mortar again.
Yeah. And then it still goes back, and like our podcast studio is way in the back. There's 3 more rooms back there.
Yeah, I
So
can walk out and you can see me.
it's a really big store.
Gonna walk out.
Yeah, see.
Oh yeah, Jeremy's.
Oh, there he is. Hey, what's up? That's great. That's great. That's fantastic. Um, as far as like, to go back to Knock Loose, I think it's interesting how they charted higher than Taylor Swift. I don't know how long they did that, but I remember seeing that and I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah, isn't that insane?
How did that happen?
I don't
Um,
know, man.
I actually
I
know.
don't think they were. It must have been a fluke because I don't think they're more popular than Taylor Swift.
No, I don't think it was a fluke, really. Like, if you, I'm assuming, I don't know this for a fact. Like, I'm not a statistical analyst, so I don't know. But the way that they count those streams, so like, if you drop a new release, like, okay, that Taylor Swift record came out April 19th. The Knocked Loose record came out, I don't remember, but it was a month, maybe 2 months after. So she had a huge influx when that came out. So her streaming numbers were going up, 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 up. And then it kind of plateaued while she's still getting millions of streams consistently. It wasn't spiking. So when Knocked Loose dropped that and that huge influx happened, it jumped over her influx at that current time, which would be streaming over her. I don't think they've accumulated more streams, but I think they were
Okay.
streaming up there with her. And that's just
Yeah, at
me
that point.
kind of. I don't know that if that's how it is. Like, that's just from what I know a little bit about how they count that stuff. I'm assuming how that's happened, but either way, it's impressive that they did. Like, I don't like the band, but good for them. Like,
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm
exactly.
not a
I got
big
to give them
fan, but
flowers there.
yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan, but yeah, they're definitely. I mean, shit, man, like all these like young kids that don't even have anything to do with metal or hardcore, are like, oh, have you heard Knocked Loose? And I'm like, I've heard all about them. I've heard them a little bit, but yeah, it
yeah,
seems to be some people really like them. Seems to be an
Here's
acquired taste
here's
for
my
me, but
positive take on it is if anything, that's going to be a gateway band for a lot of other kids to discover more underground music. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, when I was younger, Limp Bizkit was huge, and like Corn and all. And I wasn't into any of that stuff, but that was a lot of gateway for other people. Like Deftones, that was a gateway band for me. But
yeah.
so I mean, it has its place.
And you look at that B sides of that Deftones album, uh, they're playing like hardcore covers and like,
Uh-huh.
you can see like video of them back in the day playing like Bad Brains covers and shit like that, So I mean, they got their roots, I mean, it's definitely fair to kind of call them like a gateway band because, they're and shit, they got the bass player from Quicksand now, so it's like
Yeah.
all those kind of elements are there and they're a good band, so.
That's just me. You know what I'm saying? They were
Right.
big. They were on MTV. So good music.
And,
I,
and you think of a time too before the internet, and that was I mean, I grew up in Montana for about 7 years. That was the only exposure to music really was MTV. We
Right.
didn't have like a major city where we could go and see hardcore shows. It kind of sucked. So
Yeah. And of course, I did it the old-fashioned way, like everybody with there's the thank you list. Oh, that guy's wearing this T-shirt. That guy's wearing that T-shirt. What band is this? I mean, Sworn Enemy, for instance, was like, oh, Jamie Josta's wearing a Sworn Enemy. There's a gun on that shirt. That's got to be cool, like check that band out, that kind of thing.
yeah, it was weird to see like take another band. I guess this could technically be considered kind of a gateway band too, but like POD, to see them wearing
Yeah,
like Zayo shirts and like all this other stuff and being on MTV and shit.
yeah, that's pretty nuts.
That was wild. Now, like up and coming artists, as far as like who do we need to like look out for? That's kind of like coming up on the horizon as far as like newer artists. Could be
um,
hardcore, could be anything.
some hardcore ones. Well, I'll let Jeremy handle the hardcore ones. I'll give you some hip hop ones. Um, Danielson, he's a rapper out of Toronto. He has a lot of that like dirty street sound that I was referencing earlier that I like. Rome Streets, who signed with Griselda Records and they're associated with Benny the Butcher. Like, he's still got a lot of that sound. And like producers like Future Wave, like he makes beats for a lot of these guys, and all of his stuff is just real reminiscent of that sound, but it has his own spin on it. And that's all really cool to hear. So I'm trying to think of maybe like a couple metal bands, like Slime Lord would be one. We interviewed them like a while back.
Great name.
Yeah, they're like real like fretless bass, like crazy licks, like really slow, drawn out, dirty, grimy, slow, slimy sounding breakdowns. Um, I don't know off the top of my head, but after Jeremy's done, I'll have probably two more for you at least. So.
All right.
Well, there's an up and coming band that I can't name them because it's going to be a surprise, and we're going to interview them. So stay tuned for that because they're fucking sick.
Can I ask this question? Are they a super group?
No, they're kids.
They're young.
That's kind of what I super groups are awesome though. But another band to check out.
You're talking about Smoke AD, aren't you?
I was gonna say, you guys digging on that Smoke AD at all?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, that's another one that's good. Smoke AD. Crush Your Soul is a band. I believe they're out of Flint, Michigan. I just got their 7-inch yesterday, and that's amazing. What else? I gotta move. Face the Pain. Face the Pain is a kind of like a Detroit super group. There's people from Neverending Game. Shit, I forget the other bands, but that is Face the Pain. It's fucking super like fast, almost Judge style, like that style hardcore, angry, kind of at straight edge. What else, man? It's
right on.
It's like you said, it's Ryan, and your brain starts to fart.
Yeah.
But it put on the spot. World on Fire's new record. We interviewed those guys. Nauseum. Or Nausea. What did I say? Nauseum. Anyway, that's fucking awesome. I got like 2 singers. Flipping through in my head. Come on. Dude, there's so many now. I'm thinking Escalation of Force. Vigilante. Yeah, dude, list goes on.
Nice.
Yeah, that's it annoys me when people like, I hear this a lot where they say there's no good music out after like a certain period of time. But there's literally so much out now that like,
oh yeah,
this is an example. There's so much in my head, in Jeremy's head, that you can't even name everything that's good out right now. There's now more good than there ever was before, because it's so much easier for anybody to make an album. Like you can crank out a record out of your living room. So there's a lot of shit to sift through. I will say that, but
sure,
at the same time,
that's what we're here for.
Yeah, like we sift through the shit for you to bring you what's good, or at least what we think is good.
That's like, I mean, you guys are from the Midwest. Have you ever watched Red Letter Media?
Can't say that I have.
Okay, I'm gonna have to turn you guys on to them, because they'll go and watch bad movies, and then they'll review them just so people can avoid watching bad movies and they don't have to watch.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, dude, this channel is amazing, and I'm giving them free advertising right now. But they're like the gold standard for like YouTube and like podcasts. Like those guys are incredible at what they do, and they've got this studio up in Wisconsin, and they're funny as fuck. And I had to ask where you guys were from, because I heard the Midwestern accent in there, and they've got it like in spades. Like it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But I guess that would kind of lead me into my next question, as far as like, I saw that you guys had the Friday poster up there, and I'm a big movie head, as you can see from the merch that I make. I always want to ask you, like, what are movies, that kind of influence you, and because a lot of hardcore kids now don't like movies anymore. I don't fucking get it. I don't know.
I don't. I think movies nowadays.
You talking about current ones?
I'm just saying, like, when we were coming up, I think movies were more a part of our culture. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Well, and too, like you could look at like old hardcore records, and there would be movie samples, you know. And the fun part of it was, oh, do I know
Right.
this? Well, if I don't know this, where can I find this? This is a cool ass line, you know. Oh, this is great.
Yeah.
Like, what's the one in Hatebreed? Isn't it American Me or at the beginning of it? You see, it's not the blood
Oh,
we shed that.
before Dishonor.
Yeah, I think it's American Me or like Blood In, Blood Out or something like that. I can't fucking remember.
One
I can't
band
It
for
remember
goes so
that one.
hard.
movie
It goes so
samples.
hard, and then they removed it
Yeah.
because
Well,
of
they
like
probably got
copyright
hit with
reasons, you know.
copyright. That's
Oh,
why
that's right.
I've always wondered how Kill Whitney Dead got away with using all the samples that they used in their music. I don't know if you're familiar with that band, but
Yeah, Matt is
yeah.
from North Carolina. Yeah,
Okay.
he
So
actually
you
ran
know.
a record store up in Greensboro where I went to college. So,
Yeah.
Oh, right
I'm
on.
trying I'm trying to get him on here, so on our shit.
oh
So
yeah,
if for some reason he watches this, hit me up. But
you know,
yeah, Kill Whitney
I can
Dead, they
put
were
you in touch
great
with
for
him.
movies.
I know him. Uh, but yeah, Kill Whitney Dead. Shit, they had like a sample every 5 seconds. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what turned
So
turned me onto that band originally. Was like you said, it was finding these movie samples. And
But before you get sidetracked, Jeremy, I'm
oh
gonna
yeah, go ahead.
I'm gonna I'm gonna go back and answer what your question was gonna be
Yep.
because if we talk movies, we'll go way off topic from it. So
go on.
movies that have inspired me, I don't know so much as like
His
inspiration would
favorites.
be the right word. Favorites like I can do, but inspiration I'd have to like really dig for it. But favorites like I love psychological thriller stuff like Jacob's Ladder and stuff like that,
Oh,
Vanilla Sky.
good one.
I
Both.
grew up on horror movies and stuff, but I kind of got away from them because they got really repetitive after so long. Like I still love
Sure.
Evil Dead, obviously, and like all the classics and stuff. And once in a while,
Solid.
a new movie comes out that's cool. Like Jordan Peele, he does a lot of good movies because I think he did Get Out and Us and those. Like I think he has an interesting take, but
I
mostly
saw
I
Get Out and I
go
liked it.
ahead.
I saw Us, and then I never saw Nope. I was like, nope.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I actually I like to Get Out the most, like out of all his movies. But
Yeah.
I mean, the guy does a good job. Like I like his twist on things, like because like when you
Yeah.
think you know what's going on, he just flips it on you. So I like that
Yeah.
because I hate when you're watching something and then you can predict the next move, you can predict the ending, and it's just you've seen it before, just 10 different ways. But
Right.
I like a lot of sci-fi stuff too, and even I don't think I'm trying fantasy things too, like Lord of the Rings, stuff like that. But I like Alien.
Sounds like
Who doesn't
a
like aliens?
firefight.
Yeah, yeah. So Dune would be
Boondock
another
Saints.
one. Like I don't know if you just have you seen Dune 2 or Dune 1 or the original Dune, but all those movies. Star Wars is kind of an obvious, but that's more of a science fiction love story, really, than a
Sure.
full out sci fi movie.
Did you
And
say
war
you like the new
movies.
Dunes?
Love them. I think
Okay.
that
Yeah.
like Dune 2 was the best movie this year so far.
I could argue that. I'm a little. I think Timothy Chalamet is more of a appropriate choice for Paul Atreides because Paul Atreides was supposed to be really young, you know, and like I like Kyle MacLachlan, but yeah, he's kind of miscast as that character, you know.
Yeah, he was
But there's
old
also
back
a
then.
charm. What's that?
Yeah,
He
he was
he
Yeah,
was
like
but there's
way
old,
also
old
like
yeah.
a
looking in that older movie.
yeah, he was like 29 or 30, I think, when they cast him in that. It's insane. And Paul Atreides is supposed to be a very young teenager, but you know, there's a lot of people that don't like that original one. It's got so much charm, you know, because it's like it's kind of cheesy and the special effects are okay and David Lynch hates it, but it's a fun movie, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
It's
Like
for
it
the
was a
time.
great
What you
movie.
got, Jeremy?
Oh, and before Jeremy starts, every John Hughes movie there is, love them. Go
Oh,
ahead,
okay.
Jeremy.
Okay, I'm gonna keep it more specific because I keep this shit in my head. Back to the Future, The Goonies, Godfather 2, Taxi Driver, Raging Bull, Jaws, The Shining, and a war
Fantastic
movie
films.
would be probably Apocalypse Now, maybe Platoon. I don't
There's
know.
a really
Those kind of
there's a
those are the like kind of how I was. If I had to pick, those would be the movies.
there's a really good 4K restoration of Apocalypse Now. Do you guys actually do you do anything like physical media as far as DVDs or Blu-rays at your store?
Yeah.
Yeah, my son collects VHS tapes, and the
Oh,
store just started stocking a bunch of. You guys got an influx of VHS tapes, and notice those have been selling
Yeah,
lately.
why is
So
that a thing
a lot.
again?
I have no idea, but we
Because I get
it's
vinyl.
I can
Vinyl
tell
is
you
like,
from my experience,
go ahead, tell us because
tell us.
I
I
want to
like
know too.
VHS the same way as vinyl. It's just how I saw it. So, Batman with Michael Keaton and Batman Returns. I was a kid, 5 and 7 when those came out. I saw them on the big screen, and then when I would rewatch them, I still have my original tape. Grainy, it's shitty. You can't see the strings. You can't see you know what I'm saying? So it's
Yeah,
more of a nostalgia thing for me. Um,
sure.
the old Hitchcock movies, like I nabbed some from here the other day. Those they don't need to be cleaned up. So if you can pick them up for 50 cents or $1, I'm gonna do it. Um, and again, there's some movies that you can't get anywhere else but on VHS. They're
Yeah,
few and far between nowadays, but they're out there.
that's
But then
true.
again, that's something my kid likes, so that that gives me something else to like nerd out over.
Yeah. Well, it's
But
weird, because like I always understood the vinyl trend, and that like, yeah, you get like artwork, you have something tangible, but like VHS, I don't know, man. Like I had a buddy one time, he bought a Clue VHS, and I'd never actually seen Clue. It was one that I missed when I was younger. And he's like, "You want to watch Clue?" And I'm like, "Sure." I was like, what platform is it on?" He's like, "Oh, hang on." Pulls out this like sun faded VHS tape, and I was like, "On VHS, dude, we could watch this in vastly superior quality on YouTube if we
yeah,
just rented or Amazon Prime or something like that." He didn't want to.
didn't want. Yeah, see, that's what I mean. Like
I don't get it. I
I'm
don't get
only
it.
that way with particular films though. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh,
Yep.
Indiana Jones would have been another one I should have put on my list there. Um, but Batman,
But you,
the ones where the people were in makeup a lot and like you knew they were like doing fake shit. It sometimes it depends who does the transfer. You know what I mean? The
yeah.
transfer from just like in records, it depends who does the mastering and the cutting. And you could say, oh, I got this great copy of Superman with Christopher Reeves. It's on Blu-ray and it was done by, some jack off on a computer in his mom's basement. It's not going to look very good.
Right. Yeah, definitely. What do you guys have as far as like plans for your store and for the podcast? What are your future goals?
So for the store, I mean, we just plan to keep growing. We'll just kind of follow the trends as they come. Like me, I don't like VHS tapes. I would like back to what you said. I would much rather take the 4K transfer of Apocalypse Now over the VHS tape. I actually have that exact copy
Oh, you
that you're
do?
talking about. Yeah, I have a
Hey,
pretty
man,
sweet.
Apocalypse Now, I will totally watch in 4K for the record.
You can come to
It's
my house
fucking
and watch it,
beautiful. It's like a
but
painting.
Okay.
yeah, but I have
And
a
in the
pretty
5 and the
sweet
9.1 surround.
I have a pretty sweet home theater, so I'd buy everything that I know I'm going to watch over and over again. I buy it all. But for the store, I mean, we'll just keep riding out the trends of what comes. Like VHS tapes are hot right now. We'll sell them. We sell a lot of cassette tapes too. I don't get it. The quality's rough. I understand there's a certain charm to it and stuff. And depending on what it is, like a demo tape that you want to get out quickly and it's cheap, I get it. And that being said, I do have some. But the
Full
podcast,
albums, though,
yeah, whole album on a tape. I don't know, but
I don't
for the
get it either.
podcast,
Oh, that was
so
another thing that came back, cassette tapes. I
yeah,
don't get it. I
we
just
I
don't
got
don't
a
get it.
get it.
lot of them, man. We probably sold just in the last week at least $200 in tapes.
That's insane.
Yeah, But the
That is
podcast,
crazy.
we're about to release our 100th episode next week.
Okay.
And normally, like, we would be in the studio on our audio equipment. Like, we have a really solid setup, but we had some
Yeah,
internet
yeah.
issues. So we had to do this like through our headphones and stuff. But I promise when people listen to the podcast, it sounds way better than how we probably sound. But we just got that all sorted out. So, like, we'll be holding full video every episode at this point now, whereas before we were just audio only. And we just did that because, one, like, we didn't have the equipment back there. Like, I had to run Ethernet cables all the way across the store from the router all the way to the back and everything like that to get a direct connection for video. And then when we started doing it just between the two of us, we didn't need internet. But we just plan to keep on growing it, man. Like, as long as people are cool with being interviewed and they're on video, we're going to release every episode from here on out that way. We plan to do merch. We plan to we know some people who are booking agents who will get us into shows. So we plan to go do like maybe some on-set interviews during different shows, different festivals, stuff like that, and just keep building it wherever we can because we have fun doing it. And it seems like people listen to it. Like, we're not Joe Rogan, but I don't really want to be. So like, sure, like his
Would be though.
contract on Spotify would be cool, but like
Yeah.
we just
Well,
do what
consistency
we have
seems to
fun
be the
doing.
key.
Yeah,
Consistency seems to be
consistency.
kind of the key with podcasts. Like, just keep doing it, and it'll get traction. Like
Yeah,
it's
and you have to. I think you have to like be self-aware that not every episode is going to fetch a lot of listeners. Like, you might have a guest that you're like, man, this is awesome. Like, I'm so glad I got it, and nobody cares. So,
But
but
that's what
you
makes
care.
it fun for me because I care,
Right.
and that's the only like I'm gonna do it whether anybody's gonna listen or not.
right.
And when we started, it was like that, and until it's not fun anymore, and I don't see that ever not being fun. So we're gonna be doing it for a lot longer.
Well,
And like Ryan
that's
said,
kind
with
of
the
the
growing, I feel like we're really starting to expand now. And the video thing, it was you got to start somewhere, and we do this all by ourselves, all out of our own pocket. So it wasn't like we could throw down a bunch of money on like all this video equipment and sound gear and all this shit, and then we're like 2-3 episodes, well dude, I don't know, I don't really feel like it. You know what I mean? Like, it happens all the time with people. We're
yeah.
just fortunate enough we got some good shit going.
Well, and I think you really kind of like captured the ethos of like hardcore in that like, hey, we're gonna do this. If you like it, check it out. If not, we're gonna do it anyway. And that's
Yep.
yeah, that's like the best like kind of attitude towards it. It's just like, hey, you can join in and enjoy, or you can do something else, and that's okay. So I think that's a really great
Definitely.
attitude, actually. Well, cool. Any parting words of wisdom from you, gentlemen?
One thing before we get off, I do want to mention tomorrow we're going to be announcing a giveaway that we're doing of over $100 worth of stuff. There's a handful of records in there, a bunch of stickers, some random like koozies, some patches, things like that. So check out our Instagram at Noise Avocation and go there, share the post, that sort of thing. But
It's one grand prize winner.
yeah, one person's taking it all.
What's the
But
grand
I
prize?
did. So there's a Frozen Soul record, their new album, Earth Crisis Firestorm. There's a American Nightmare 10-inch. There's the latest album from Big Deal. There's a Berthold City CD. There's like 30 stickers in there.
Yeah, there's a lot of stickers that we found that are
Berthold
cool.
City. That's Andrew from Stripe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great band,
awesome.
and I believe that's another one I would mention that is definitely on the upswing and a band to like. If you get a chance, listen to them. Anybody out there, they're fucking awesome. And I believe they have a newer record
I've
coming out
been
this
meaning to
year.
do that. I've been meaning to do that just because of the association with Strife. But yeah, it's. Do you guys ever get like where you're like, I've been meaning to listen to this record, and you just keep putting it off? Do you guys have any of those kind of
Every
records?
day, dude, all the time.
I've done that where it was like 5 years that went by, and I'm like, oh yeah, probably should have listened to that. And then you listen to it and you love it, and you're like, why the hell did I not listen to this
Yeah.
5 years ago or however long ago? But I mean, sometimes you get on little things where you're like, man, I really am into this right now. I don't want to hear anything else. Like sometimes that happens.
Yeah. I got to ask this question. Who's a band or an artist that you slept on for a long time? Also a movie too, like music and film that you guys slept on for a long time. You finally watched it and you were like, or listened to it and you were like, this is fucking amazing.
Okay, I got a movie.
Okay, go ahead.
I slept on, and now it's like one of my favorite movies, which I guess I didn't mention. I have a lot of favorite movies, so that's not fair. But
Which movie?
The Graduate, The Graduate
Oh,
with
good
Dustin
one.
Hoffman
Dustin Hoffman
and
and Pam Bancroft. Yeah.
yeah, and I never like gave it the chance or whatever. And it's like because Dustin Hoffman, I just thought of as like fucking Rain Man or something, from
Right.
And my old lady's like, we should watch this. And so I watched it, and I could watch that thing fuck 100 times, man. Fuck, Mrs. Robinson is a sketchy bitch, dude.
Yeah, she's fine
Crazy.
as fuck though.
Yeah, dude. I don't know, man. She scares me. She still intimidates me.
I don't know,
But
man.
yeah,
We
there's a
all
movie I slept on. There's a movie I slept on. Yeah, and music. Um, the Smiths would be my biggest one that I like would be like fuck that whiny shit. Like I wouldn't even give it a chance when I was younger,
Right.
you know. So I was, if it didn't have a breakdown and somebody wasn't screaming, I was like, oh, that shit's weak. You know what I mean? I was like a little
Yeah.
closed-minded asshole back then.
Yeah.
But that's probably the
What
biggest
about
band
you?
I slept on that I love now is the Smiths.
Okay. What about you, Ryan?
Music, I would say Kendrick Lamar. I didn't like him when he came out. I heard it like I just didn't care for his voice. Like voice means a lot to me, like in all sides of music, not just hip hop. So like it took a minute
Yeah.
for that to really grow on me. And
Yeah.
I didn't like listen to it in a like sitting down and really listening to it type of way. It was like somebody played it in the car and I was half-ass paying attention while driving.
Sure.
And I later listened to it and was like, wow, this guy is like a phenomenal writer. Like he's really actually like constructing a lot of poetry, really.
And you mentioned that Good Kid, Mad City is almost like he's telling a story. And I think
Yeah.
that's probably one of the best observations I've ever heard because like there's so many like little details and things and it's like, you pick up on different elements of his life in that whole album. And it's good. The beats are good.
Oh yeah, the whole record's great. I remember when I first listened to it the first time through, I got like halfway through. And to me, I was like, I might have even said this on the podcast when we talked about it, but to me, it was like Trey from Boys in the Hood writing a hip hop record because
Yeah.
he was sort of the guy that was in the movie, wasn't really involved in that life, but had to live in that life.
Right.
And that's how like Kendrick presented that record, or at least how it kind of presented itself to me. And then at one point in the album, he actually says like that he's like Trey, that's Cuba Gooding, and he references Trey from Boys in the Hood. And I was like, oh shit, like he also got my reference. Like it was right there. So I think that's what he was going for, though. I mean, it is a good dude from a bad city, and
Yeah.
I love him now. Like, but it took me a while to warm up to him.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really interesting way for him to frame it. And now that kind of changes my perspective. And, I'll probably go back and listen to it and be kind of like looking for these little, hints that was kind of the inspiration for the
Yeah.
album.
And I see a lot of people that talk about his new record and they're like, oh, that one sucks. Like, it's horrible. But if you really listen to it and read everything, like start to finish, like, he put a ton of time writing into that. Like, the thought that goes through there and like the dilemmas, like family dilemmas and stuff that are intertwined into there. It's not just a like, put it on and I'm going to go cruise around and this is going to be background music. Like if you want to really enjoy it, like you have to like listen to it and fully hear it, not
Yeah.
just have it on in the background. And it wasn't made to be one of those. I mean, there's records that are made to put on and drive in the car that are just, fun to like have like just chill, drive, whatever. Like everybody listens to different stuff, and then there's records that are like meant to like sit down and really like pay attention to.
Right. Yeah. The last thing I heard from him was "Damn." That was like
Yeah,
8 years ago at this point.
2017. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a while.
Yeah.
And a movie. So movies,
yeah.
I would say Blade Runner. I didn't watch Blade Runner till way later on. Not because I wasn't interested in it. I just every time I like went to go watch it, I ended up watching something else, and I don't know. It eluded me for quite a while, and that's a movie that I love now. Like it's actually one of my like reference films when I'm like testing out a theater setup and stuff. So
Oh, nice.
yeah,
I think Aliens is mine, just because it's
okay.
so like, just so much going on. I'm gonna go ahead and answer my own question. Biohazard. I fucking slept on that band forever, and I'll tell you why. It's such a superficial reason. It's because as I was getting into hardcore, you know, like we had mentioned, a lot of the gateway stuff for kids that weren't exposed to hardcore was like, new metal, rapcore, things like that. Biohazard was doing that back in the day, but before it was cool, before it was really popular. And so when I started to discover all these hardcore bands, I'm like, oh, they're doing the same shit that all these bands that I'm kind of trying to distance myself are doing. But then when you actually go and listen to like Urban Discipline, that album is hard as fuck, man, and it's so good. And I'm so disappointed that it took me forever to get into it, but it's fucking great. And then like movie, shit. What did I sleep on for a long time that I finally watched? I'll tell you, when I watched the other day was Gravity. I never saw it, and it was one that I'd been meaning to watch, and finally I watched it. I was like, this is really good. So.
Yeah, that's a Christopher Nolan movie, isn't it?
Shit, I put that on and fall asleep all the time.
Or
Yeah,
is that
like my buddy was telling me, he described it to me perfectly. He was like, I got high and I watched Gravity and I felt like I was in space, and I was like, I want to watch this movie.
Right on.
It was the guy that did Revenant, Inarritu,
Oh yeah,
in
that's right.
Birdman.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's almost got that like one
So it's gonna
shot
be a
kind
little
of
out there.
perspective. Yeah. Well, yeah, I asked any parting words of wisdom, but that was like 20 minutes ago. So,
Yeah, like I
any
said,
parting
man, you
words
get
of
us
wisdom
on
from you guys?
movies, we'll talk forever. So
Oh, I mean, I love movies. We could probably do an episode 2, and we'll just fuck, man. We could talk about that shit all day.
yeah,
That's what we said. If we weren't doing music, we'd do movies.
I've been wanting to do like a movie podcast. Like
that would be
just
cool.
specifically movies. That's kind of the plan. But one of these days we'll get into it. But
Yeah, parting words. I want to say thank you to you, man, like for reaching out to us, having us on the show.
Absolutely.
Like,
Right on,
appreciate
dude.
it. I apologize that our audio might have not been the best, but
No,
we'll
good.
have you back on our show for an updated, fresh interview, and
yeah.
definitely talk some more about movies, music, etc., and whatnot. But to anybody listening, check out our podcast if you're into pretty much any form of music or talking about record collecting, anything like that. Like we cover a bit of everything. So check it out, Noise Avocation. And
Nice.
anybody who has listened to it, like we appreciate it. Thank you. And to you, man, thank you again.
Yeah, man, all the kids out there, man, keep that PMA. That's my thing. Hold on tight. Shit sucks. Life gets hard. Listen to good music. Find good people.
Yep.
Thanks to everybody out there supporting us. I appreciate that. And you too, man. Like, I'm like, why does this guy want to talk to us? He talks to way cooler people. So I appreciate you too, man.
Here's the thing. I actually wish that I could get like some of the newer and upcoming bands or project that's on here. Like I think that there's a bunch of. It's still interesting to me to see like all these different incarnations of hardcore that like all these like these young kids, 20 mid-20s type kids are coming up with. I'm like, oh wow, that's really cool. Like You're the Knife. That band is fucking awesome, and like I was like,
agreed.
This band is good. And there's
which it's good to hear that she's okay now, because remember they had that accident right before their last album came out, and it's good to hear that they're back out.
And I didn't even know she was the new vocalist.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. Would love to have them on the show. But no, I mean, like, it's great to be able to, kind of connect with everybody. And, especially like-minded people and people that are kind of doing, you know, something in a similar vein, and I think you guys are doing great, man. I went back and I saw some of your ones. I mean, you had Mike Score and you had Dwid from Integrity and like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I mean, it's great, man. Like I think that yeah, you guys are doing great things, and I hope you continue to do great things. And you guys are always welcome back on this show. I think it'll be a good time.
Cool.
Shit. Thanks,
We
man.
appreciate it, man.
Absolutely. And before we go, I want to go ahead and just re-promote Hell's Heart. You can buy official TNET podcast merchandise at hellsheartco.bigcartel.com. Use the code 20 for 20% off your entire order. And we've got Bella Canvas t-shirts. They're tri-blend polyester cotton rayon. They feel really fucking soft. They're good. But yeah, everything is on sale. So if you buy a shit ton of stuff, just put in 20 and you'll get 20% off that entire order. You buy $100 worth of stuff, you get $20 off. It's pretty fucking great, I think. And then, like I said, like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell for notifications. Dudes, I really appreciate you, Ryan and Jeremy. And yeah, just hang out for a little bit backstage, and we'll chop it up in post game. But everybody who attended the stream, thanks so much. Namaste. God bless. Be good. See you guys.
Thank you.